Laker fans have been upset throughout this offseason as the Lakers have remained relatively quiet with the exception of the coaching change, and there is a reason for that, according to a recent article from The Athletic. Also, the Lakers added another coach to JJ Redick's staff, and this will be historic for the Lakers in its own right. What's good, y'all, and welcome to another Lakers Digest video. I'm your host, Okechi Apakama, and before we get into everything we have for you for today's video, guys, I just want to remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to get those Laker updates. Now, I would be remiss, though, to not start off this video by wanting to give out to my condolences to the Bryant family, as Joe Bryant, or Joe Jellybean Bryant, has recently passed away. That is Kobe Bryant's father. He played 14 seasons in the NBA, and he also played overseas as well. So, from Lakers Digest, we'd like to send our condolences to the Bryant family in this trying time. Now, let's hop straight into the topics we have for you today, because we've got a bunch to talk about, as the Lakers are staying patient in the trade market. So, the Lakers, who have been relatively quiet with the exception of bringing on their new rookies Dawson Connect and Bronny James, haven't really added anything to the roster, and they haven't made any trades either. And there's a reason behind that, according to Johan Buha of The Athletic, and this is what he said in a little bit about his article. So he said, the Lakers plan to remain patient in their quest to improve their roster after failed trade talks with teams such as Portland, Brooklyn, Utah, Toronto, and Orlando. The Lakers' inactivity has not been due to a lack of trying. They've struck out on Klay Thompson, were unable to land an impact free agent like Jonas Valanciunas or DeMar DeRozan, and they have failed thus far to find common ground in trade talks with Portland, Brooklyn, Utah, Toronto, and Orlando. Now, according to league and team sources, the Lakers are expected to remain patient in their quest to improve their roster. Now, I know that doesn't sound great for a lot of Laker fans, as they want to get this team turned around right away. And the Lakers, they've been talking about having all these assets to trade, and then they haven't used them at all. And this is kind of reminiscent of what happened the first season after Russell Westbrook was with the Lakers. And it was very clear the Lakers were needing to trade him, but they did not make a trade in that offseason because the trade just didn't really come about until the mid-season trading deadline, and that's when they were able to make that trade of Russell Westbrook. So it's kind of a similar situation, not as bad or dire as that Laker team was not good at all. This Laker team does have a chance to be good, especially when healthy and getting all their guys going, but they're not good enough to be that championship contender just yet. And we've heard Redick say it, we've heard LeBron say it, that the Lakers are just maybe a move or two away. So this team is really close to where they think they can be. And Johan went into further detail on how the Lakers could possibly free up some roster spots, as he said the most straightforward way the Lakers can add talent is to make a consolidation trade. They can send out more players than they receive in a deal, or a salary dump Reddish, Wood, and or Hayes, along with a second-round pick or two, onto a team with roster and financial flexibility. If the Lakers traded two minimum players, Wood, Hayes, and Reddish would qualify, they would have enough room under the second apron to sign a player to a $5.2 million taxpayer mid-level exception. They could also add a player in a trade or sign a player to minimum contracts. So that has been the only way that the Lakers are going to be able to add a player at this point of the season, as they haven't really found that big trade partner they want to deal with to deal these multiple first-round picks, as there's been talks with guys like DeJounte Murray, who had evidently went up to the New Orleans Pelicans, and another guy, Zach LaVine, there's been talks here and there, but his massive contract is a huge drawback for the Los Angeles Lakers. So it's all about trying to find that consolidation trade and try to fix sort of like that back end of the roster, as there is a lot of guys back there who are going to struggle to find regular minutes for the Lakers, because the Lakers currently have 15 guaranteed roster spots at this point in time in July. And there's a lot of guys who towards the end of the season last year weren't able to play in meaningful games. And those are guys that were mentioned that could be a salary dump type trade, like guys like Christian Wood, guys like Cam Reddish. And I do think the Lakers might want to keep Jackson Hayes because he did show some value there towards the end of the season for the Lakers, albeit not in the playoffs. But that is very important to have, especially when you have a long regular season, an 82-game season. So having a guy that you can throw out there at different points like a Jackson Hayes, and he can give you some good minutes, then that probably incentivizes the Lakers to possibly wanting to keep him. But as far as some of the rest of the guys, because they have a ton of developmental players on their team, so that is people like Jalen Hood-Schifino, Maxwell Lewis, and Bronny James. So these are all people who probably aren't going to be receiving NBA regular minutes because they're not ready for NBA regular minutes. So the Lakers have all these roster spots and then just really nowhere to put them, as there hasn't been a trade that has formulated for the Lakers of their liking, as either teams are asking for too much, whether it's the Portland Trail Blazers and 2 first-round picks for Jeremy and Grant, or it's teams with players with too big of a contract, so guys like Zach LaVine, or some of these teams not willing to want to deal some of their players. So maybe even a guy like Lauri Markkanen for Utah, as they've held a pretty steep asking price for a guy like Markkanen's services. So the Lakers have just been struggling to really find that trade to really help facilitate this deal. But what I more think of this is going to be, it's sort of like the Russell Westbrook situation, as there probably isn't going to be that trade in the offseason, and the Lakers are going to go into opening night with this same roster, and they're probably gonna have to make a trade mid-season, and that's when things will open up, because they do have expiring contracts, and they also do have pretty solid mid-sized contracts that have some good value around the NBA. So the Lakers aren't unable to make a trade. I just don't think they found a trade that they've liked, and that's why they haven't truly made a move. So we'll see what happens here in the next few months, or even in the next few weeks, as some of these other players who are still on this trading market were probably going to get moved or talked about. So we'll see what happens there. But let's move on to our next story, and it's a pretty big deal, as the Lakers hire Lindsey Harding. So for those of you who don't know, Lindsey Harding was recently a head coach for the G League team for the Sacramento Kings. And so this has happened earlier, as the Lakers are going to add Lindsey Harding to their staff, as she's agreed on a deal to become an assistant with the Lakers. She's leaving the Kings to rejoin JJ Redick, who she spent time with the Sixer staff, and then was also an All-American at Duke. So you've got those Duke ties there, and then she was also a player development coach over there for the Philadelphia 76ers. JJ Redick played for the Philadelphia 76ers for a good amount of time in his career, especially with those teams with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. So he's had a good relationship with her from as early as college up until now, and she's definitely a person who is well suited for the job, as she played 9 years in the NBA. So here's more about her. And so she is 40 years old, and she's made a steady climb onto the NBA bench after retiring for a 9-year WNBA career. Harding was the #1 overall pick in the 2007 WNBA draft, and she also reached the Western Conference Finals in one season, playing in Stockton after working as a player development coach with the Sixers and Kings. She also interviewed for the head coaching job that ultimately went to Charles Lee of the Charlotte Hornets. So she definitely has the track record to get this job, and it is really great to see, because this will be the first female assistant coach in Lakers history. So this is history for the Los Angeles Lakers, and it's really cool to see the Lakers do this at this point in time, as I'm definitely going to be rooting for Lindsey Harding. To be honest, I didn't know too much about her coming into this story. So seeing her and her meteoric rise in those WNBA and now NBA ranks, it's similar to what happened with Becky Hammon, because she was, if some of you know, she was an assistant coach for Pop and the Spurs, and then she eventually went back to the WNBA to become the head coach of the Aces. So if some other teams are looking at her as a head coach, then she definitely has that gravitas and that pull that you need from players. And if she has that also that player development aspect, because the Lakers have been talking massively about having a huge player development program. And I said before that there's a lot of players on this roster who are going to be going through that. So people like Hood Sheffield, people like Maxwell Lewis, people like Bronny James are all going to be going through this player development program the Lakers are setting up for their team. And she looks to be part of a part of a big part of it, as she comes in from a player development background from 2 different teams, and then also her playing days in the WNBA. So we'll see how the rest of the coaching staff is starting to shake out, as we now have, I believe it's 4 names now on that list, because Woj put it there in his article. So joining Redick staff currently, it's her, Nate McMillan, Scott Brooks, and Greg St. Jean, who was recently hired. I believe he was on the Hornet staff. So the Lakers are starting to fill out the rest of their coaching staff here. It's been a slow process, but they have been able to get it done. And if they're able to get it done well before training camp and start to implement their system and their philosophy and how they want to run things, then we'll start to get a finite look of what JJ Redick looks as a head coach. As we start and finally see these pieces get put into play, and then now it's just about getting together, starting to put the work together, and having things come to fruition. So this is a process that will probably be happening behind closed doors, so we won't see probably a sniff of this up until the preseason games there in October. But let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you think about Lindsey Harding? Do you think she'll thrive as a Lakers assistant coach? And then what do you think about how the Lakers are dealing with not making some of these trades and being patient? Would you like the Lakers to make a deal possibly here in the next few weeks, or are you more of the mind for the Lakers to wait till the trading deadline so that perfect trade comes along? Let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. I have been your host, Okechi Apakama, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.